Hey everybody, it's Nurse Kelly. I'm the Chief Nurse Advocate for Wanderly, and you are listening to another episode of the Happy Traveler Podcast, where we cover all things entertaining and informative for incredible travel healthcare professionals, recruiters, agencies, everybody in the business. We thoroughly enjoy it, so thank you so much for jumping on with us again. You are in for a super treat on this podcast. We have had so many people request that we interview a family that travels together, and we can get their tips, advice, helpful hints, all the things that you've been asking for us and from us, from these two awesome travelers together. So we have Britt Garcia, who is a PICU traveling nurse, and we also have her husband, Nick Garcia, who is actually a recruiter. So we have some really cool insight for you guys today. I'm super excited about it, and we're going to jump right in with them. So Britt, can you go ahead and just give us a little intro about yourself?
Yeah, so I was a PICU nurse for a little under 5 years before I started traveling, and I've been traveling the last 3 years in the PICU specialty mostly, but I also do NICU as well. We've been to Albuquerque, Arkansas, California, Seattle, and Boston, and currently we're in Denver.
Oh, that is so cool, and you've got your husband, Nick, right there with you. Nick, will you go ahead and say hi to everybody real quick?
Yeah. Hey, how's everybody doing? Just wanted to share. So when we decided doing our travel experience, I went and quit my job to do this, and Brittany has been an amazing traveler for the last 3.5 years. We've got a 4.5-year-old daughter. So that was my role for the majority of our time traveling until I picked up an awesome position as a recruiter for travel nursing. So I've been really enjoying that. And, it's a very unique opportunity for me to kind of have the travel nurse experience with following and watching how Brittany's been doing it for the last 3.5 years. That
is so exciting and so cool. What a unique story. Nick, where are you recruiting at right now?
I'm working for a Travel Nurse Across America. They're based out of North Little Rock, Arkansas, but I am a remote recruiter for them. So I'm able to travel essentially with Brittany while she travels around.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is awesome. I love how this is just structured for you guys to be so successful. I think that is so cool. Okay, well, I'm obviously very excited to get into, the nitty-gritty because everyone wants the information about traveling as a family, but I just can't wait to hear it. I absolutely have to hear your love story. So how did you guys meet? Tell me all about the things. How did you fall in love? Where did you get married? We want to hear it. And Britt, we can just start with your side of the story first.
Well, it's actually kind of a little bit of a funny story. I met Nick when his dad's job relocated them from California to Texas when we were only 12 years old. We actually had 7th grade Spanish class together, and he was like my biggest crush. And we went through middle school, high school, and started college together, not knowing we were at the same university, and started dating when we were 18 years old. And we got married, 6 years later, I think it was, and right after we got married, we bought a house, had a baby, and then started traveling.
Aw, that's so cute. Oh, that's so fun. You guys have known each other forever. That's like your lifetime soulmates. I love that. Nick, do you have anything you want to add?
She missed the very key and funny, my proposal. We're big into sports, so I'd always thought about the stereotypical, hey, let's go to a baseball game or a basketball game and do the Jumbotron thing. But no, I want to be a little bit more creative. I actually got a hold of it wasn't the principal anymore, but I got a hold of the current principal at the middle school where we met, and he actually opened up the school for us because it had been, summer vacation had started. He opened up the school, the actual classroom where we had first met, and it was still, oddly enough, a Spanish class at the middle school. So that's actually where I decided to propose. We had some family in town, and they were all outside, they had poster boards of when they first met Brittany, and then Brittany's dad escorted her all the way to the classroom. And then that's where I was waiting for her. So I was able to propose in the actual class that we met when we were 12 years old.
He did an amazing job. It totally blew me away.
Oh my goodness. That is the most romantic thing I think I have ever heard. Oh, you guys. And what is baby's name, and how old is he or she now?
So our daughter's name is Isabella, and funnily enough, she is named after a character on Scrubs. So Dr. Turk and Nurse Carla, they have a daughter named Isabella, and they call her Izzy, and that's what we call our daughter, and she's 4 now.
Adorable. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm sure everybody on here is so excited to hear more about you guys and more about your family and all this super cool traveling and this life that you guys lead. That is wonderful. It's awesome to get to know you, just a little bit about your background. And so, Britt, you were saying, too, that you did nursing for 5 years as a staff nurse, and then you switched into travel. So what made you do that switch? What prompted you to make the switch from staff to travel and also, kind of uproot your family and you guys get on the road? What was your driving force there?
So like Nick and I, we've always been amazing friends. And after we got married, and we had our daughter soon after that, we felt like we were just like two ships passing in the night, with work. And he had a Monday through Friday government job. I was working weekends so that we didn't have to really pay for childcare because it's so expensive. So we weren't really getting that family time that we really wanted together. It was like, he had the weekends off and he would go with, one of our families and hang out with the baby. And then I was having to work. And then on my days off, it was like me and Izzy and not him. And so we just really were struggling with that. And, it was actually Nick's idea. Like he approached me about the idea of travel nursing and I kind of thought he was crazy at first. And, but I was like, no, like he's my husband. I'm going to look into it. I'm really going to give it a shot and see, like, do more research. And the more that we looked into it, the more we're like, I think we can do this. And we, haven't looked back since we jumped in like May 2016. Like we've had so many crazy and fun adventures and the time that we get together is just incredible. 3 shifts and then 4 days off. And if we plan it right, then it's really 8 days off,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. Nick, how would you say that you got into recruiting? Was it something that you always did or just something that you found recently or when Britt started to travel? How would you say you got started in that?
No, yeah, it's honestly, it was just the Brittany's experience with it. And while I was traveling around with her, there were times where we would talk to travel nurses when she was on assignment, and we would kind of jointly like, hey, you should work with this company. This agency is so great. TNAA does amazing things. They've got great benefits. We're very family first. That's what I like to say. We're a very family first agency. And they really took care of Brittany, and I love that. And I had the opportunity to meet a lot of their higher ups, their higher management, their leadership team a couple years ago now. And they got to meet me, and they're like, hey, you look like you sound like you could be a recruiter. You lived the life. You've been helping us, kind of bring in some nurses from across the country whenever Brittany's on an assignment. So that's kind of what got the ball rolling with it. It honestly was just a fluke. To be honest, that was my biggest fear of this whole experience was I'm quitting my job. I might not have anything on my resume for the next few years while we travel. So I was very worried about when we did settle down, what was going to happen. And this was just a blessing in disguise, being able to work with TNAA and get that opportunity with them. And I've loved every minute of it so far.
Well, that's fantastic. What a nice way to do it. You guys are just rocking and rolling. That's so awesome. Well, I want to hear about each of your favorite experiences that you guys have had as a family. And it doesn't have to be an assignment that you necessarily took or even a location, but just have you guys had a day or a week or maybe even a month where you're like, wow, this is one of our best times as a family. Can you share a little bit about that, Britt?
Yeah, so my favorite thing was we spent 11 months in Seattle, and after that assignment, I got a contract at Boston Children's. And so, usually between the stuff, we always go home to Dallas, Fort Worth. And so we decided to make a cross-country road trip from Seattle to Dallas and then to Boston. So in total, like 4,100 miles. And we camped along the way. We went to Grand Teton. We camped at Yellowstone. We went to Niagara Falls and did Maid of the Mist. Like, just all these incredible things that, like, people wait, like, their whole life to experience stuff like that. And in that month that we made that road trip, we just had some of the best times together and, like, doing goofy things in the car, like singing and dancing and, just, like, this time together. I think that's been my favorite memory of, like, the whole experience the last 3 years.
Yeah, that sounds really great. I would love to go to Niagara Falls too. I'm super jealous of that. That's awesome. Nick, would you say that that's your favorite time as well, or do you have maybe a different favorite experience?
I'm definitely super annoyed that she took mine, because that is one thing that was my role. I was always the planner of the road trips, because it's just something I love to do. But no, like that, Brittany's right. That experience was amazing. I mean, 4,100 miles across the country, and we didn't do it direct. We went a big V. We went from Seattle to Dallas, and then Dallas to Boston. So, I mean, that was amazing. But no, honestly, another thing that stands out to me, I grew up camping and being in the outdoors. I was in Boy Scouts. Again, Southern California, you can camp year round. So that was something that we always did as a family. And Brittany, I love her, but I should say she's changed significantly, but she was very prissy, very like, oh, I don't sleep outdoors. I need to be in a cabin with a fireplace. You know, it's got to be, I would even say more than glamping. Like, I don't even think glamping would have been an option. But when we were in Arkansas, I got her to tent camp for the first time, and it was probably the absolute worst camping experience we've had. It downpoured and thunderstormed for an hour. We were in my parents' 20-year-old tent, so it leaked everywhere on us. And I was like, oh goodness, the first time I finally get Brittany out on a camping trip, this is what happens. I'm never going to camp with them again. She's never going to allow it. And she absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate. I ended up packing up and throwing everything in the car and going back home. But she was like, honestly, up until that, it was great. She had a great experience. So, being able to add that to our family travels, camping, has been really cool, because it brings me back to when I was a kid, and now I get to see my daughter experience what I experienced. And then obviously, you know, with Brittany too, my wife being able to do it and enjoy the things that I enjoyed as a family.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely think that is so cool. I grew up in Colorado, where you guys are at right now. So we did the camping thing. We did the mountains. I've definitely had the experiences where you're getting downpoured on. Oh, that's so cool, guys. That's awesome. Well, I'm sure everybody is super curious about traveling as a family or with a family, or if they want to start a family. We do get a lot of questions and submissions about people who just want to know, is it possible? You know, how do you do it? So what I was thinking is how we would do this is we'll have Britt go first. And Britt, if you could just share your perspective as the traveler. So pros and cons of traveling with a family, maybe some, you know, struggles you might have run into, some things that are really great about it. And then Nick, if you are up for it, we could do advice and tips and things like that you can offer then on the contract and the recruiting side as well for people who want to travel with more than one person, or if they just, you know, if there's just something that they need to know or be more aware of. That would be awesome. So if you're up for that, Britt, do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I think as a traveler, what can be kind of difficult at times is, you know, being alone or being lonely because you're away from home. You don't know anybody. You're in a new place. But I feel like I kind of missed out on all of that because I have them with me. So, like, I think, you know, personally, that's a huge pro for me, is like having my support system every place I go to, which has been amazing. I think, you know, some people that have older children, it could be difficult, you know, if finding, I don't know, like school or childcare. But, you know, for us, our situation, Nick was able to be a stay-at-home dad during that time. So we didn't really have to worry about finding that. I will say, though, it can be having like date nights with your spouse is a little bit of a challenge. And I'm probably like the worst person to ask because I'm a PICU nurse. So my mind is like, you know, super jaded from my job. Like, I won't let just anybody watch my child. So typically we don't like get to go out and do that while we're on assignment. It's usually like in between when we're going home and our parents watch her. But I would say it's totally worth it, though, that sacrifice, because the time that we have had together. So.
Sure. So would you say that maybe the biggest concern when you're actually on assignment is just always making sure that Izzy has somewhere to go?
Yeah, and you know, I think we've done a pretty good job of getting her like involved in stuff. Like when we were in Seattle, she did soccer, gymnastics, ballet, and tap. And then Boston, she took swim lessons. Here, she actually starts gymnastics tomorrow. So, you know, like I think it's totally doable, and you can still find activities for your kids to get involved in, or, you know, like the less expensive stuff if your spouse isn't working while you're, you know, if you're traveling as a family, going camping or going to parks, because like we tend to go to places where there's a lot of outdoor activities, which are, you know, usually free or very cost efficient.
Sure. And what do you think that you could say maybe to a family that has older kids? Maybe they're still living at home, though. Would you guys ever consider traveling once Izzy's in school?
I think absolutely. I actually met a travel couple, or family, I should say, that traveled while their kids, like, all the way through high school. And they told me about a website, I think it's like greatschools.com or something like that, that basically has like curriculum. So if you're willing to homeschool, I mean, you can pretty much go anywhere. It's, you know, as long as you have dedicated time to be able to do that with your kids, I think, you know, it offers them a great perspective and, you know, exposure to different cultures and people, which has been super beneficial for our daughter, I think. You know, she's learned so much just in the few years that we've done this.
Awesome. Very, very, very cool. Okay, great. And Nick, would you mind giving us the perspective of a recruiter? What do our travelers need to know from a pay package or contract or compliance standpoint? And if nothing, then that's fine too. But do you just have any advice from maybe your experience through all of this for someone that would want to travel as a family?
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing that comes to mind, especially with a new traveler that's showing interest, is you've got to be flexible. You know, a lot of people, when they think of traveling, they're, you know, oh, I want to go to San Diego. I want to go to Anchorage, Alaska. I want to go to Honolulu, Hawaii. Those are all great options. I mean, absolutely, we'd love to get you there if we can, but those jobs, for the most part, are either few and far in between, or you're being submitted with 40, 50 different applicants. And if you're a brand new nurse traveling, you're most likely not going to get that option. So for a first timer, I definitely would recommend being flexible. You know, for a lot of hospitals, they require at least one travel assignment under their belt before they'll even accept a submission from from a travel nurse. So flexibility is key, as long as the nurse comes in thinking, okay, I can do anything for 13 weeks. I can go to somewhere that I never expected to go or to enjoy. Just speaking from our experience, Brittany's first assignment was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Never had we imagined going to Albuquerque. We've never thought about going there for like a vacation or just, you know, driving through. And never crossed our minds. But to get her first assignment under her belt, that was one of the jobs that was available. And I'll tell you what, we had an absolute blast in Albuquerque. We were able to go to the Grand Canyon, which wasn't too far away. We went to Petrified National Forest. We went to Carlsbad Caverns National Park. We went to White Sands National Monument near Las Cruces.
And all the green chili was super good.
Yeah, we probably ate way too much green chili, but you know, again, New Mexico wasn't something that was on our radar, but that was what the assignment. She was given an assignment and she had a great time. So, and you know, I think I can parlay that flexibility into traveling with a family. You've got to be flexible with your housing sometimes too. If you're traveling with a family, you know, we actually stayed in a 220 square foot casita in the back of this really sweet couple's house. The husband converted his garage into a small little efficiency, and the three of us for 13 weeks stayed in this tiny home, and it was awesome. Brittany and I slept on a futon for 13 weeks. Our daughter slept in a pack and play, but that was our way to save a little extra money so that if we wanted to go to the next assignment and be somewhere where it was a little bit more lavish, a little bit more expensive, we were able to do that. But you know, I think that flexibility is basically, that's what I'm getting at, is you definitely need to have some flexibility, especially for a first-time traveler.
Of course. Well, that's really good information. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I was so curious about that too. There's just so many different things that go into travel that I think people get nervous about even just considering it when they have a family, when it sounds like if you do it the right way and you have the right resources, that it really is very doable. So that's awesome. Well, you guys, what are your big plans for the future? Still traveling? How long do you guys think you'll be doing this? Any more kiddos? What are you thinking? What do you guys got cooking?
Well, I am just starting a permanent position at Children's Hospital Colorado, which I'm super excited about. I'm actually working on the critical care float team. So, PICU, NICU, and the cardiac ICU. And, I'm really excited to learn and gain more experience in those different specialties, because what's unique about this hospital is that they do offer an abbreviated work program, and that means that sometimes with approval, they give nurses summers off. So if I can qualify for that, we would love to continue to travel every summer because, Izzy's going to be starting school, and while homeschooling is a great option, we just feel like we want her to have the public school experience. And so we'd like to do that and then continue our travels every summer, every year. And then we're going to be trying for another kiddo this summer, hopefully.
Yay! Well, congratulations, guys. That's so exciting and awesome. First of all, I love Children's Hospital Colorado. I've been there many, many times. I've been interviewed in Seacrest Studios. I absolutely love it. It is state of the art, and it's a magnificent place to be. So I'm sure you absolutely love that. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to check out Wanderly or not, but I wanted to ask your thoughts about it because obviously we've got the traveler perspective and the recruiter perspective. So we will take all feedback. We are not over here, just only accepting rainbows and butterflies. We love making improvements. We're constantly trying to enhance our platform for our travelers and for our recruiters. So yeah, do you guys have any thoughts you guys want to share with us? Being able to check out the platform, and we can start with you, Nick, if you want.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot on that. I remember what did we do a while back? We wrote something for Wanderly too a little bit. We were asked to write something. It was a couple years ago now, I think maybe a year ago.
Yeah, we did a blog post about 5 tips to pick a travel nurse agency. But the platform I think is actually really cool because it's like a one-stop shop for getting an application in, and you can basically pick and choose, and you don't have to put your information out there as far as you can find the agency while staying anonymous, which is really cool, I think, as a traveler, because you get bombarded with constant calls and emails and texts from recruiters. And I think now that Nick's a recruiter, I kind of have a little bit more sympathy for them. I've instead of not responding to them, I tend to respond and I'm like, hey, thank you for your email, but I'm already working with somebody right now.
That I'd definitely like to touch on that too. And we know as recruiters that it's not, once you put your name out there and you've got some type of contact information, it's not the most fun thing getting phone call after phone call. But if nurses can guide us and say, hey, look, I'm working with XYZ agency. I don't know that I really need a second or third or fourth recruiter. If just give that response to the recruiter, it would I would just make it so much better on the nurse too, because otherwise they might just continue to get contacted. So I definitely think that, like Brittany said, the being able to be anonymous for Wanderly, I think that's pretty cool for the nurses that don't want to be, contacted so much. But that would be another little thing from a recruiter's perspective. I know it's probably one more text that you have to send, but if you just respond, hey, no, thank you. I decided not to travel, or I'm with another agency, just started an assignment. That would go a long way. So that just, again, from the recruiter's perspective, that would be a nice little piece of advice I can give as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think transparency and communication is super, super important in this industry. Obviously, everybody's fighting for business and fighting for jobs, and which is just that's just the nature of it. And so I think, the more that we can absolutely communicate, and that's our whole intention with our platform, is just to create a higher level of transparency and a higher level of protection for everybody involved, so that this experience is seamless and beneficial for everybody. So that's awesome. Well, you guys will absolutely have to check it out, and we're going to be coming after Travel Across America here real soon, Nick. So hopefully we can.
I look forward to it.
Yep. Hopefully we can continue, to work together and collaborate. I have absolutely loved having you guys on. Thank you so much. You don't even know how valuable this information is to people who have never experienced and gone through what you guys have done. So thank you for paving the way and for sharing your experiences about traveling as a family. It will be really, really helpful and beneficial to a lot of people, which brings me to my next point. Do you guys have anything else that you want to add, first of all? And then where can people find you? Because I'm sure people are going to have questions for you guys. So if one of you wants to share your social media or, any blogs you're working on or anything like that where you're okay with us sending people, we would love that.
Well, we wanted to say thank you to you for having us on. We really enjoyed, talking with you and really like Wanderly and working with them as well. We definitely keep a social media blog on Instagram. It's Going Gone Garcias. Nick gets the credit for the what's the word?
Well, maintain
the creative name.
Well, it's kind of we really like baseball and going gone like home run, but we're leaving, and then obviously the play on our last name Garcia. So it's just that's where that came up from. But honestly, the initial creation of the account was just to share with our friends and family back in Texas where we were going and what we were doing and how we were, living this dream life. And it kind of, it got a little bit bigger when, we started, Brittany would kind of talk to nurses through that. So yeah, we definitely like to, point new nurses or even, nurses who are currently traveling in that direction of the Going Gone Garcia's account, just to see a little bit of what we're up to and how our travels are going.
And we're always happy to help, answer questions for new travelers, current travelers, or just nurses that are curious about the process. I wish I would have had more resources when I started. I definitely, the people that I knew that did it, I picked their brain and asked a million questions. But I feel like my situation was a little bit different, having my family on the road. So I'm always happy to help. I feel like nursing, we gotta support each other and be there for one another and empower one another. So we're always there to help and be that support.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that offer. I'm sure that you will have a ton of people take you up on this. You guys, I can't tell you, we get asked about this all the time. So I'm so happy again that you jumped on. It was absolutely a pleasure. So thank you for joining me on The Happy Traveler. Everybody that's listening, that is Nick and Brittany Garcia. They are a recruiter and PICU travel nurse, now staff nurse at Children's, incredible dynamic duo. So please go visit Going Gone Garcias on Instagram. Absolutely follow them. Pick their brain. Use any sort of resources that you guys can find for them. If you have questions about traveling as a family, they are wonderful resources. We are honored to be in collaboration with them. Really, thank you again. I'm the Chief Nurse Advocate, and that is another episode of The Happy Traveler. We'll see you guys next week.